Everyone. I'm Robin Burns McNeil, the head of the Board of Trustees, and this is our 476th meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone and call the meeting to order. The Secretary has not received any written request to speak at the public session, so I think we can proceed to reports. We'll begin with the President's report. Dr. Brown.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to academic year 2020-2021. And we have a special welcome to Robin as our new chair, and to Jackie Lividini as our new vice chair. And before I say anything else, I just want to utter three little words: new academic building. So I also want to thank all of you for your support and your faith in my unshakable belief that one day we would actually be having this conversation and that it would actually be built. So no shoe has dropped since I gave you the good news the other day. The contractors are now engaged in site preparation activity. They're filing for permits with the buildings department, the fire department, and other branches of the city bureaucracy, and they are preparing a site safety plan. On Tuesday, we hold a kickoff meeting with our two contractors, our construction manager and DASNY. So far, so good, and fingers crossed we will be able to start digging in November. So we're looking forward to a formal groundbreaking, but we're not laying a date for that just yet. We've now scheduled 2 virtual town hall meetings for the community, and later, that will be later this month, at which we will have our architects and DASNY and our construction manager, and of course, Sherry and her team on hand to take any questions. So as thrilled as we are to finally have reached this point, I know that there are some concerns among some in the community, particularly at this rather stringent time we're living through. So we plan to communicate as much and as often as necessary to be transparent about financing and any potential disruptions and any other issues that might emerge. At our foundation meeting last month, we swore in 3 new directors. Robert Fish is the founder and former chair and CEO of the retail chain Route 21. He's a retail analyst who more recently has turned his attention to millennials, whom he writes about and mentors through his own Millennial Advisory Board. In addition, Rodney Hutton joined us, and he is a merchant and a marketer who over the years has filled several senior executive positions with brands such as Karl Lagerfeld and Anne Klein. He's now the Chief Marketing Officer for Ethan Allen Interiors. And Dana Eisen-Johnson, who is both the trend expert for Etsy and a judge on NBC's Making It. With her expertise in home decor and fashion, which I might add, she learned as a student at FIT, so she's also an alum. She is really in constant demand from the media, and I think she's going to be a great addition to the board. In other personnel news, I appointed Professor Shannon Marr to the position of interim dean for the J. and Patty Baker School of Business and Technology this summer. Professor Marr has really distinguished herself in the 7 years that she has been at FIT in her role as chair of the Home Products Development Department, as well as in her service on a variety of college-wide committees. Before she arrived here, she was in the manufacturing and retail sectors of the home industries, and even today she continues to act as a product development consultant. She has big shoes to fill because, of course, she is replacing Steve Frumpkin, whom we lost this summer. He was a victim, of course, of coronavirus. Our new executive director of media and public relations arrived just as we went remote. She is Beth Mitchell, a communications professional who spent 9 years at Time Inc., where she went from director of PR for InStyle to the position of vice president of communications. responsible for strategy for publications such as Essence and People's Style Watch and People on Espanol. Prior to arrival here, she was in charge of marketing, communications, and branding for XL brands with clients such as Judith Ripka, Alston, and Isaac Lisra. And then I just want to say a couple of words about Arlene Spivak. All of you know Arlene. Arlene has been with me since I arrived at FIT and 22 years ago. It's longer than a lot of marriages, I might add. She retired at the end of September after almost 40 years at FIT, and almost all of them were in the president's office. By title, she was my special assistant, and she certainly was special. Everybody in the college knew and loved her. I relied on her for too many things to even think about. She was also the grand puppeteer behind the scenes of all of the entertaining I did for the college, including at the apartment and big parties on campus. So in her place, we have her protege, Eileen Babaslukian, who has been with us for over 8 years now and who you know as the board coordinator. It's a role she will continue to hold, so we will certainly miss Arlene, but we feel like we're in good hands with Eileen. And while we're talking about people, you'll notice that Sally Haas is still with us as our student trustee. She's been a stalwart through very difficult times, both in providing guidance for us and support for her peers. She really has had a very, very impressive tenure. But there was such uncertainty. Of course, last semester, we had to postpone student government elections. And in the last few months, we have had to extend the voting period for the student government officers. So yesterday was the deadline for submitting ballots. So we do not yet know who the new officers will be. At our next meeting, we'll need Sally's replacement and have a chance to properly thank her for her exceptional service. So as you know, this has been an especially trying time for educational institutions. We spent the spring and the summer trying to determine the wisest way to proceed for the fall. Should we be remote? Should we be in person? Should we have some hybrid? And here we are, almost entirely remote. Our exception is the School of Graduate Studies, which is holding some in-person classes in most of its programs. We didn't know what to anticipate in terms of enrollment. We knew that our residence halls would be empty, and they just about are. We have 220 students living in dorms with a capacity for over 2,500. So obviously it's not a good business model. The 220 students are being housed in Kaufman Hall. The financial loss to our Student Housing Corporation is significant, which is why we're going to hold a session of the Student Housing Corporation Board immediately following this meeting to discuss obtaining relief from our debt service, just as SUNY did for its state-operated colleges. In terms of enrollment, we experienced a 6% decline compared to last year at this time. The losses were higher among students new to FIT than among our continuing students. Actually, we had an increase of about 6% in our graduate school. Of course, we're never content to lose enrollment, but we are comparatively speaking better off than many of our sister SUNY schools, some of whom are seeing losses of as high as 20%. Meanwhile, our admissions office is recruiting vigorously for next year and finding in some ways that virtual is better. They can make more high school visits locally and nationally, and they can participate more actively in national portfolio days where the design work of potential students can be examined. In fact, this summer, we were puzzling about how to proceed for the fall. We actually prepared for the possibility of remaining remote. We made strategic investments in software and offered intense training for all during the summer with specialized workshops for faculty that were very well attended. And all of this led to major improvements in both teaching and learning for students and faculty this semester. Our IT staff and our Center for Excellence in Teaching have been providing personalized attention and help wherever it was needed. And we've successfully set up a system that allows us to observe social distancing while making our labs and studios available for those students who are able to get to campus and would like to have that space to do their work. In the meanwhile, we are testing for the virus. We are constantly testing for the virus. It really is a mandate from SUNY and from the state. We're testing students who regularly come to campus, those who live in Kaufman Hall, our graduate students, and those students using our labs and studios. Altogether, there are about 500 people. We're also testing the approximately 150 employees, faculty, staff, our public safety officers, our maintenance crews, who are also regularly on campus. It's a self-administered test, a nasal swab, and it's being conducted in the Great Hall. We're in partnership with Quest Diagnostics, and we set up a schedule where everyone is tested every other week. So no decisions have been made as to how we will proceed for the spring semester. We live with the same looming uncertainties that have dominated our lives since last March. And in any event, we take directives from SUNY and from the state. However, we are closing the dorm as of Thanksgiving. That's been the plan from the beginning. Between the winter flu season and the potential for a spike in the virus, we and a number of colleges throughout the system are embracing that schedule in an abundance of caution. So turning to our agenda for a moment, we're asking you to approve a resolution concerning record retention. It provides a detailed outline of what kind of records must be maintained by the college, for what period of time and for what purpose, and it applies to both print and electronic materials. As it happens, we have long used an established record system of record retention and disposal that was developed by the New York State Archives, and it's applicable to community colleges, including FIT. So state law required us to adopt a resolution adopting those practices as policy in 2010, and this board did adopt that resolution. So this new resolution simply consolidates the record retention schedules of all New York State local government entities, such as cities and villages, fire and school districts, and community colleges. I can tell you it's 386 pages long, but nothing really does change for us with it, so I hope you will approve it. Just a month ago, we held the last of our design entrepreneur competitions. This is a program that many of you are familiar with that we started 8 years ago in partnership with the city in its effort to boost the fashion industry. We called it a mini boot camp for designers who had the creative talent to succeed, but lacked the business skills to survive. Mars Goldfarb from G3 really was the backbone of the program. He provided financial support, soliciting financial support from his colleagues, and acting as a judge and cheerleader. I know some of you acted as judges as well. Robin did, Deirdre did, and perhaps others as well. Several years ago, the city dropped out, and Morris stepped up, bolstering the program by allowing us to offer $150,000 in rewards on an annual basis to the winners to support their businesses. So the whole program was outstanding. The talent was amazing. Everyone benefited, but it's run its course. A total of 255 designers from 225 companies mastered the art of business planning as a result. And even in the face of the pandemic, I think they're really in a far stronger position to survive today than they were before they entered our boot camp. Speaking of offering opportunities to emerging designers, I have to mention our foundation colleague, Tom Nastos. Tom is also an alum of FIT, and he is on our foundation board, and he is the Chief Commercial Officer for Informa. And thanks to Tom, the work of our fashion design students who graduated in the spring is being showcased on his digital trade show platform, which runs for 2 months. So the students, the graduating students produced wonderful work, despite all of the upheaval of last semester. But there was no real opportunity for them to display it to retailers or potential employers. You know, we couldn't have our fashion show, as you all know. Anyway, Tom came along and really provided a wonderful opportunity for them. It's been a good season for us in terms of media coverage. First and foremost, there was the FIT Girl Scouts USA collaboration story, modern new outfits designed by 3 FIT students via our FIT detailing bag. It was all over the New York Times, and it was then picked up really throughout the world. The reach through social media for the Times story alone was over 100 million clicks. Then 7 class of 2020 graduates were featured in the big September issue of Vogue, 5 in fashion design and 2 in photography. The September issue of Elle carried images by 2 of our photography students, and last month Valerie Steele was interviewed on CBS Morning about the ways in which historical events influence the way we dress, using examples from our collection in the museum. And those are just the highlights. So in spite of all the other issues, we managed to have really good coverage in the media. You may recall that when Arnold Scazi died 5 years ago, we were notified that once his estate was fully settled, we would be a beneficiary. So I'm very pleased to report that we now have $4.2 million for scholarships. For Scazi scholars. So thanks to our friend Arnold. When we met last June, I mentioned that we were beginning really to put together initiatives to deal with the racism that had been festering on our campus and that really sprang into the open following the MFA fashion show. Then there was the murder of George Floyd and other unarmed African Americans, which caused yet more pain throughout the world, really, but certainly in our community. As this was unfolding, I realized that FIT really had a responsibility and an opportunity to make change both internally on our own campus and externally in those creative industries that we support, the industries that actually employ our graduates. And so we began to put together a plan, a rather sweeping plan that supports the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and covers not just this campus, but our friends in industry as well. Its ambitious overarching goal is to create a welcome, inviting environment for African American and other students and employees of color by eliminating racism from our own campus, and at the same time ensuring career growth for our alumni of color who work in the creative industries. We developed parallel plans, one for the campus and one working through the Foundation for Industry. It seemed to me that FIT could use its unique position at the nexus of leadership development, education, business, creativity, and design to transform both the leadership and the cultural competencies of the creative industries. And so we established the Social Justice Collaborative, an organization whose primary goal is to change the culture and practices that act as obstacles to diversity within the companies. We now have 15 companies on the advisory council, including Kering and Tommy Hilfiger, and Amazon, G3, Carolina Herrera, IMG Models, a number of others. And our plan is to develop a pipeline for talented students of color, starting in our pre-college programs all the way through college graduation, including scholarships and mentoring and internships and apprenticeships and ultimately job placement. In fact, we established a social justice scholarship fund to help us recruit and support more minority students from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, and it's already attracted very generous donations, so we're pleased with the start of that. The collaborative has a public component that we are still developing, a group of programs ranging from a speaker series for a film festival to an executive education program. So our plans build on some programs that we already had in place, but we've added numerous new initiatives. We, for instance, created an ombudsman position, someone that will work with and for the students against bias or unfair treatment. That person will play a different role for students than the one performed by our Title IX officers or by department chairs or deans. Another new initiative is to make mandatory for all FIT employees, faculty, administrative staff, a training program on topics such as harassment and discrimination, implicit bias, and cultural competencies that will be repeated for each individual every year while employed here at the college. That program is already underway. At the same time, we're examining our curriculum to both infuse it where appropriate with new historical and diverse perspectives, and to expand it with new timely courses, some of which have already been approved. We will also explore the creation of a campus cultural center, which is something the students really requested, where the students can feel safe to meet and spend time together. So those are just some of the highlights of the planning. We're always examining strategy to enhance our recruitment efforts. We also provide robust extracurricular programming. In fact, we are right now in the midst of our third annual Civility Week, which this year is devoted to social justice. And we're having panels and workshops on topics such as racism and structural change, cultural intelligence, safe zone training. And we wind it up with 2 days of a diversity Comic-Con, which which showcases the talents of a diverse group of comic artists, both within and outside of FIT, and offers relevant panels as well as great networking opportunities. It's really one of our most popular offerings. So, as you see, we may be remote, but we're also as busy as ever, and most days it feels like we're more busy than ever. So that's my report. I hope you all stay healthy and safe until we next meet in December. So Robin, I turn it to you. You're muted, Robin. You're muted. You're muted. There.
Me now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I said thank you for that report. A lot of good things in that. I also wanted to just acknowledge you and the entire team for the extraordinary, and I mean extraordinary effort that you have all made since March in trying to deal with this pandemic and the major effects on this college. And it's incredible what you've done, and it's been tireless and it's been complex, and you've been able to work diligently with the faculty and the administration to get us up to working order and to go to a remote, completely different model of teaching, and have done it well. I mean, I think we have to stop and applaud that. You know, as much as it's difficult every day to face what you're facing and the unknown future, like the spring semester, and the unknown budget cuts that are hanging over our head with state and local. But I just want you to know, from my perspective personally, and I'm sure for the board perspective, we applaud what you've done, we respect it, and we thank you for that.
Well, I thank you for that. I thank all of you. I have to say that the faculty and the team, everyone has indeed worked tirelessly. I mean, I don't think anyone took a moment break from March till now. And we see it in the results. I mean, we see the difference in what we're hearing from the students. Last spring when we all got dropped in the deep end of the pool, so today having really everybody devoted so much time and attention and just heartfelt angst getting us to this point. So I thank you for the recognition, and I would really.
And I really am surprised that the enrollment decline is only 6%, and in fact an increase in the graduates. I mean, I think that's again to be commended. That is not what people are experiencing around the country, for sure. Having an avalanche on my desk. So thank you for that. I think we can move on now to our action items. There are 4 action items, and I think I'm going to move on approval at the end of discussing all 4 of them.
Robert, I'm sorry. There's one more report, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry, the audit committee. Is this, Richard, are you doing this?
Is Bob?
Is Bob there?
Yes, I can do the audit committee report if that's
Yes, please. We appreciate that. Thank you.
okay, no problem. So the College Audit Committee met on September 22nd. Beside myself in attendance were Bob Savage, Deidre Quinn, and Beverly Mack. The primary agenda item for the meeting was to provide the committee with a report on the completed fiscal year 2020 internal audit projects and to review the fiscal year 2021 internal audit plan. In addition, the committee was provided with an update on the progress of the financial statement audit of the college and its auxiliary entities. The college's finance team informed the committee that KPMG had started the fiscal year 2020 audit of the college and its auxiliary entities. KPMG is progressing through the audit on a remotely testing process, starting first with the smaller auxiliary entities and then turning to the college. The results of the audit will be presented to the November committee meeting. The internal audit team led the presentation of the status of the fiscal year 2020 internal audit projects. This was quite a robust set of reports, which included 8 areas: cybersecurity, financial aid of the federal programs, the educational opportunity program, the admissions process, the human resources operations and employee benefits areas, and the workplace violence prevention program, and then a finance enterprise review. We were happy to hear that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies discovered, although the audits did make a number of recommendations for consideration and implementation by the relevant departments of the college. The fiscal 2021 audit plan was reviewed and approved by the committee. There followed an executive session between the internal audit and audit committee, and nothing of significance came up in that executive session. So our next meeting will be held in November 2020, at which time we will consider and review the audit of the college's financial position.
Are there any questions for Richard? Okay, thank you, Richard. So now we can move on to action items. I'm getting some background noise from somewhere. I think that's better now. No. Does everybody have their mute on? Okay. We have 4 action items. The first one is the approval of the minutes from the June 11th meeting. The second action item is approval of the minutes from the July 8th meeting. And the third is the approval of the certificates of permanent tenure. And I have to read the names of the personnel who have met the requirements for the permanent tenure. There are 20 names, so just bear with me. I'm going to read them now. Jennifer Bentivegna, Richard Carey, Sonia Chapman, Nadine Deli, Michael Gluck, Chantel Hopes, Lisa Kesselman, Marie Macari, Shavon Myers, Gladys Rathod, Maria Rothenberg, Evelyn Rinkowitz, Tom Scott, Sabina Shorty, Elizabeth Somers Judge, Richard Sunday, Mark Switzer, Amara Tehida, Felix Valdez, and Michelle Young. The fourth action item is on the proposal for the record retention and disposition schedule that Dr. Brown alluded to, and also you received a memo yesterday from Stephen discussing that more. And I just want to know if there are any questions about that. Otherwise, I'm going to include it in the vote of the 4 action items together. Are there any questions on that or comments? Okay, so I will therefore entertain now a motion to approve all 4 action items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No one's opposed, so that will carry. Okay, so now we're going to move to adjourn our Board of Trustees meeting and convene our Board of Directors meeting for the Student Housing Corporation. But before I do that, again, is there any discussion items or anything anyone wants to say? Okay. If not, then I need a motion, I guess, to adjourn. Stephen, is that correct? Yes, so I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Trustees meeting, please.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have a second.
Second.
Richard, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, thank you very much. So we've now switched hats, and I will call to order the 93rd meeting of the FIT Student Housing Corporation. And the Office of the Secretary has not received any written request to speak at the public session. Correct, Steve? And we can go into the business session. There are only 2 business items. And you all attended, I think, the meeting that Sherry conducted presenting the details supporting the proposed to restructure the Student Housing Corporation debt services obligation. And other than the minutes from the last meeting of April 16th, that is the other item that we want to vote on. So is there any questions or discussion about that item, the authorization for restructuring the housing debt service? I think it was well described by Sherry, and I think we covered everything in our calls, to my knowledge. All right, well then I think that we can move for to vote on the authorization for the minutes and also for the restructuring of the Student Housing Corporation debt. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. I have a second. Thank you, Mona.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Discussion or questions? This is a short meeting, you guys, so it was painless. And I hope everyone stays well and has a stays safe and healthy until our next meeting. If there are any other comments, discussions, anything before I adjourn the meeting?
Just thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion again to end our meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second.
I have to run. I can't even clean it up. I've
Yeah,
got to
good
go.
job.
I'm getting my hair cut.
All in favor?
Yeah, I want it repainted. I mean, it's a beautiful African violet.
Thank you.
I got to go. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Okay, bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful day and be safe.